Hello, my dears. How are you today? I hope it's a great day for you. Well, today Grandma wants to read you a fairy tale, and it comes from a book that Grandma had when she was a little girl called Favorite Fairy Stories. And this story is called The Three Feathers, and it is by the Brothers Grimm. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a wise old king who had three sons. Two of them were very clever and daring, but the third was simple and spent his time daydreaming. He was considered a good-for-nothing and was nicknamed Emptyhead. The king, however, loved all his three sons equally, and when he began to grow old and weak, he became very worried because he could not decide which of his three sons should inherit his kingdom. He therefore summoned the three of them and said, "My sons, one of you must succeed me as king, but I do not know which one of you to choose. So I have decided to put you to the test. The throne will go to whichever of you brings me the most beautiful carpet." Hmm, that's their test. Bring their dad, the king, a beautiful carpet. I have heard that the most beautiful carpets can be found in the East, the eldest son remarked arrogantly. And since I am the firstborn, he added, I think that it is my right to set off immediately for the East. But the second son was angry at this, as he too wanted to be the first to set out. A violent quarrel broke out, and in the end, the old king had to interrupt. "Be quiet, my beloved sons," he said to them. "Fate will have to decide which roads you are to follow." Then the king produced three feathers and showed them to his sons. "Here are three feathers," he said. "Now we will go down into the garden, and I will throw them into the air. Each of you will follow one of them." Then the king took his sons into the garden, and he threw the feathers into the air as the boys looked on anxiously. The wind carried the first feather to the east. The second feather went to the west. But the third feather, after fluttering for a moment in the air, dropped slowly to the ground. The third feather had been drawn by Emptyhead. When his two brothers saw what had happened to his feather, they laughed loudly and jeered at him, so that poor Emptyhead felt dejected and hurt. He sat down on a bench, a picture of utter misery, with the tears welling up into his eyes. All of a sudden, he noticed that a little trap door had appeared exactly where his feather had fallen. He opened the door and lowered himself into an underground passage. When he reached the end, he discovered a huge palace. As he approached it, he saw that the main door was wide open. He went inside and found himself in a vast room containing a throne on which a most beautiful lady was sitting. She was known as the Queen of the Nymphs. At first, the young boy was speechless with fear and astonishment. He didn't know that there was a castle under the ground in the garden of his palace. See, there is the boy going through the tunnel and finding the huge palace with the Queen of the Nymphs. But the queen looked so kindly that he approached her shyly and told her his story. When she heard that he was in search of a beautiful carpet, she called one of her handmaidens and said to her, "Bring me my casket." When the maiden returned, She was carrying a precious inlaid chest. The queen of the nymphs opened it up and brought out the most beautiful carpet, rich in color and soft as moss underfoot. She gave it to the young boy. Having thanked her for her great kindness, the boy hastened back in great excitement to his father. He could not wait to show the king his wonderful carpet. When he arrived home, he found that his two elder brothers had also returned. His brothers, never imagining that Empty Head would find a carpet in the castle gardens, had not bothered to look far for their carpets. They had, in fact, only brought back two mats, cheap and inferior things of little value and no beauty. They got a very unpleasant surprise, therefore, when they saw the precious carpet which Empty Head presented to his father. They couldn't believe their eyes. An intelligent person, such as each of them was, would have found it quite impossible to bring back such a carpet from the castle gardens. Then how had their brother, a silly simpleton, managed to do it? They despised him, yet he had made fools of them. They were overcome with rage. They weren't very kind brothers, were they? Then the king addressed them. There is no doubt about the result of this contest, he said. The right to succeed me goes to my youngest son. He had won the contest, hadn't he? He brought back the most beautiful carpet. The elder sons were annoyed and jealous, and they would not accept the decision. Sire, could we not try again? They pleaded with their father. After some persuasion, the king agreed to hold another contest. Once more, the king and his three sons went into the garden, and again the king threw the three feathers up into the air. Follow them, he told them, and my throne will go to whoever brings me back the most beautiful ring. Again, the first feather floated off to the east, and the second feather fluttered away to the west. Empty Head's feather drifted about in the breeze for a while, as before. Then it fell slowly to the ground. This time, thought his brothers, he has lost the contest before he starts. For he will never find any jewels in the palace grounds. And they laughed and jeered at him. But Empty Head was not upset. Now he did not feel so helpless and miserable. After all, his brothers did not know his wonderful secret. When everyone had gone and he was quite alone, Empty Head went to the trap door and lowered himself into the underground passage. Once more, he came to the vast throne room, where again he saw the queen of the nymphs. The carpet which you gave me, Empty Head told her, was so much better than those brought back by my brothers, that my father offered me his throne. But then my brothers pleaded with him for another contest. So this time, I have to find a beautiful ring. Bring me the green casket, said the queen to the maiden when she had heard the young boy's story. Do you think the queen might help him out again? Let's see what happens. From this casket, the queen took a jeweled ring that sparkled with the brilliance of a bright star in the night sky. Empty Head was dazzled by its pure beauty. Never in his life had he seen anything so lovely. It is yours, said the queen. Take it back to your father, that you may win his kingdom. Having thanked her, the boy hurried home and presented his father with the ring. The king was thrilled by its beauty and proud of his youngest son, who had been so clever as to acquire the wonderful thing. Empty Head's ring was by far the best, and again he won the contest easily. His brothers were furious, and they still wouldn't accept their father's decision. "Let us try again," they pleaded. So once more, they went into the garden, and the king threw up the feather. "Follow them," he said, "and this time my decision is final." So the boys weren't going to plead with their father to change his mind if they didn't win. "The throne will go to whichever of you chooses the loveliest bride." The first and second feathers drifted off again to the east and the west. Empty Head's feather fluttered in the air again and then fell on the grass. This time he felt sad and dispirited. He was sure he couldn't possibly win the contest. His brothers, also believing this, went away laughing. They were so sure that the contest was already over that they asked the hands of the first two peasant girls that they meant. That wasn't very smart, was it? How do they know what girls were like? Beauty is more than skin deep. Empty Head, meanwhile, went down to the underground palace and told the queen of the nymphs what had happened. "I know that you cannot help me this time," he said. "I really only came to thank you for helping me so much already." "Do not despair," said the queen, and she ordered another casket to be brought to her. From this casket, she took a magnificent flower with pink petals. Then she waved her magic wand, and the flower changed into a beautiful maiden. "She will be your bride," the queen said. So Empty Head returned home with his bride and won the third and final contest. Soon he was crowned king, and he ruled peacefully over his kingdom for the rest of his life. And that is the story of the three feathers and the youngest son who was able to win the contest and become the future king. Well, I hope you enjoyed that fairy tale. Grandma had fun telling it to you. Remember, Grandma loves you, and I will come and tell you another story later. Bye.